The Leave Your Legacy Show is brought to you by Bravehearts TV. Bravehearts TV is dedicated to bringing stories of resilience, courage, and hope to their viewers. Their mission, to inspire, uplift, and empower their audience by highlighting real-life heroes and their journeys. In partnership with Bravehearts for Kids, you, the viewers, become catalysts for saving the lives of children facing pediatric cancer. You can start by simply downloading their network app on Roku or Amazon Fire TV. Please visit braveheartstv.org. Iowa Sports Supply. Iowa Sports Supply in Cedar Falls, Iowa has all of your school sporting goods and corporate business apparel needs. Anything from jerseys, sports equipment, to online fan apparel stores. Remember to check out their website at iowasports.com or give them a call at 319-268-0125 and ask for Alex. Elevate with Robin. Elevate with Robin is a full-service brand marketing agency that specializes in developing purpose-driven brand identities. Elevate with Robin has the right blend of strategic thinking, creative courage, and commitment to elevate your brand with every interaction. Their mission? To empower brands to rise above their competition by creating powerful brand identities that resonate with their target audience. Visit elevatewithrobin.com. So my guest today is a former NBA shooting coach. Worked with a number of NBA athletes when they were preparing for the draft. He's an accomplished author and an unbelievable speaker. Let's take a look. So on that, please help me welcome David Nurse to the Leave Your Legacy Show.
Kenyon, I feel like we've been talking about this for a long time, so I'm excited to make it happen.
Absolutely. Yeah, you're pretty busy. And I mean, we'll get into the husband-wife dynamics because your wife is on a tear right now too out in Hollywood. But first, you know, your journey to keynote speaker, leadership coach, mindset coach, comes on the heels of what I would say a pretty interesting basketball journey. So give our fans a little bit of history on David Nurse.
Well, let's just say being a 6'1", unathletic, 2-inch vertical lead person who thought they were going to play in the NBA, that the dreams didn't quite work out the way I expected them to, but got to play overseas and professionally in Australia, Greece, and Spain. And I'm still thinking, Kenyon, that I'm going to play in the NBA. There was no backup plan. I don't know if that's a good thing to be all in like that, or it's just a crazy thing, but I thought I was going to play in the NBA, and it's my third year into playing overseas, and it's more like a Will Ferrell semi-pro type of league than it is actual professional basketball. And I get cut from that team. So I get cut. Now, think about that. Like, everything I poured into my life was now taken away from me with no direction or backup plan really at all.
Yeah.
So I'm in my parents' recliner chair, just actually sleeping on my parents' recliner chair for 6 months. And I always have these moments, I think a lot of us do, that we can draw back to what I call snapshot moments, where you remember exactly what was said. It had such an impact on your life, and it was one of those sparks that changed the trajectory of your life. For me, it was when my mom was doing dishes and I was being a bum laying on the recliner chair, and she said, "David, one door closes, 4 open, and an entire beachfront patio overlooking the ocean." Like, Mom, thought it was one door. What's this 4 doors nonsense you're talking about?
Yeah.
Hit me of my gifts that I had thought were for playing in the NBA were actually to coach players, to teach players. Because I was always that one doing the extra 2-a-days, the film study, all those kind of little detail things, while all my other teammates were just talented and not doing it. So I was like, all right, I'm going to coach in the NBA. I'm going to make it happen. Now, I didn't have the connections at the time. My uncle's an NBA head coach now, but at the time he was not even anywhere close to that.
All right.
So I wrote a letter to every NBA GM, put it in the mailbox, old school style, sent it out. Nothing. A month and a half goes by, Kenyon, nothing. Crickets. I kind of forgot about it, to be honest.
Yeah.
And I got a call from a 310 area code number. And it's Los Angeles. It was the GM of the LA Clippers, Gary Sachs. And we had a normal conversation pretty quick. And at the end of it, he said, if you're ever out in LA, look me up. We'll grab coffee. Mm-hmm. Just a nice way to say good luck with the rest of your life.
Right.
But I took that, like my mom said, the door opens, took it as an opportunity, spent all my money, stole some of my parents' money so I could be out in Los Angeles that following week to act like I was doing a basketball camp, just so I didn't look desperate.
Right.
Now, I prepared for that meeting. I went in there prepared, and I also was incredibly nervous, felt like a fraud, didn't know what I was doing there, was sweating through the only button-up shirt that I owned, but we hit it off. I had prepared, we hit it off. Every NBA connection stemmed from Gary Sachs. Now, there's a whole long story of running basketball camps, starting basketball camps, having custom-made basketballs sent from China to the Oakland seaport, just horrible, terrible leather. But I drove 29 hours from Kansas City in my little Nissan Maxima to Oakland, put these balls in my trunk, spend the next 5 years of my life driving around the country doing basketball camps for anybody that would take me in. I didn't have a mailing address for 5 years. I was sleeping on friends' couches who didn't even know I was their friend. I was sleeping in well-lit Walmart parking lots throughout Iowa. I can remember some winter nights I was doing basketball camps in Cedar Rapids, Xavier. I remember it vividly, and I was sleeping in the parking lot of a Walmart around that area. So all that to be said, wrapping up this kind of journey story, 5 years of pouring into pursuit of becoming an NBA shooting coach. I wake up in Melbourne, Australia, and I have an email from the Brooklyn Nets that says, Brooklyn Nets shooting coach. Mm-hmm. Didn't know anybody from Brooklyn, thought it was spam, but I was curious, so I opened it up. And then next week, I was the Brooklyn Nets shooting coach, and I made it to the NBA by way of connecting, doing good work, just developing so many relationships that eventually came back that the Nets needed some development. And the story doesn't end there, but we can pause there because there's much more to it. He fired and all this craziness.
Yeah. No, I mean, the one thing that you and I've talked about, and obviously people that do any research on, you've worked with a ton of great players, and that in itself is one of those things that people wonder, like, you had to know somebody to get that, right? Like, to be able to work with this guy, you had to get that. But how did that personal training come about? Obviously, you're with the Nets. Was that kind of a springboard for you to be able to work with some of the great players you've had the opportunity to?
That's such a good question. So it all actually started when I was running basketball camps, and I was staying up in the Bay with a friend, and another friend that I'd done a camp for. His name was Tim Kennedy. He coached Archbishop Mitty in San Francisco. They had a player who was a junior in high school. He was a top 3 player in the country. Mm. And he said, hey, would you want to come work my player out? Like, he needs some shooting drills, come work him out. I got all the way to the gym, Kenyon, and I didn't go in. I got scared. I got nervous. I turned around. I made an excuse because I was afraid of working out this talented, top-rated 16-year-old player, because I was afraid that he'd find out that I was a fraud, that I didn't really know what I was doing. I was just winging it.
Right.
So I go back to the place where I was staying with my friend, and he's like, oh, no. We're going back up there tomorrow. You're hitting Coach Kennedy, and we're going to go up there, and I'm going to bring a camera, and I'm going to film you doing these workouts, and we're going to send it out to all the agents. You said you want to do this. Yeah. You're going to do it and back out. So with the shove of my friend, we go back up there the next day, and we film it, and I'm working out this player, and this player is Aaron Gordon, who's still playing at the NBA, became one of the top picks, and we sent this. There's still this video on YouTube. You can go search it out. I got these baggy shorts. I'm just telling him these things, and he's doing it. And we sent it out to agents, and they liked it. They're like, oh, you're working with Eric Gordon. Okay, let's bring you in to do pre-draft. And then it all started from that workout, taking that chance when I was afraid, when I knew I didn't know what I was doing, but just taking that chance without, knowing if it would end up well or not.
Right. No, I mean, it's great. I mean, it's so cool of your friend to push you, because obviously you had that conversation with him and said, listen, this is what I want to do. And the accountability on your friend saying, listen, I'm not going to allow you to turn and run. I'm going to help push you this way. So that's, those are the kind of friends that you got to have. They will push you to push you to being uncomfortable, which you probably were in that instance.
Oh, man.
But having him had to just be one of those things like, man, I'm so glad that you did that for me.
Wow. Right. And you know what's crazy? Full circle. It's the same friend that introduced me to Taylor, my wife.
Wow.
Same one.
Yeah.
Talk about having a guardian angel in your life. This guy, Rich, his name. I mean, he gets me in my MBA coaching star. He introduced me to my wife. I think we need those people too.
Yeah,
those
absolutely.
People that will push us, but those people that they'll open those doors for us. They'll encourage us. I think everybody gets doors open to some extent. The question is, are you willing to step through those doors and take a chance?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, hats off to Rich for helping you out in two big ways. Two big ways. So going back to that, coaching all these guys, especially like when you have them in pre-draft and stuff like that. So they're young. Yeah, they got potential. Was there one that stands out to you where you're like, you met them, talked to them, and maybe even in that first workout, you're like, this kid's got it. He has a chance to be great.
So it's such a great question. And I could tell people by the time I was doing pre-draft for years, when I met a player, I would know from that very first workout, do they have it? Do they have that it factor where they can be great? Or do they just, not have it? So in pre-draft workouts, it's all about preparing them for, like a beauty pageant for NBA teams, but a grueling beauty pageant.
Right.
What a lot of people know is they go on this process from a flight to the next flight, day after day, doing these. Yeah, you know it. Yeah. Of course. Just tough workouts with pressure packed on them. So we try to kill them. In the first workout, we try to just, obliterate them in a very difficult setting. And I remember this one player, he came in, this gangly guy, wasn't very highly rated. He was from Kentucky. People were like, oh, maybe he'll go mid first round, probably late first round. Didn't have no followers on social media, none of this kind of stuff. And the first workout, I kid you not, we usually the players are just done, spent, like laying on the floor in their sweat, passed out, kind of done. But after that workout, he comes up to me right afterwards. I'm exhausted. Says, Coach, when are we going tonight? And I was like, wow, man, this guy is different. And we went every morning, every night. That player is Shea Alexander, who is on pace to potentially be the NBA MVP.
Yeah, but absolutely. Wow.
It's that, and I call that insatiable drive. Like, do you have this type of drive that no matter what, no one's going to keep you from your goals? Doesn't matter. You're not making excuses of, oh, it's snowing outside, I can't go to the gym, or, oh, this opportunity didn't come with it. Like, there's always going to be an excuse, and there's always going to be an opportunity to take a back seat. Like, especially for Shea, who was not this highlighted player, or people didn't really know about him, to live into those placed upon expectations of others, which a lot of us do. That is the term potential. What some person sitting behind a computer probably says, oh, this guy should go this in the draft, and that's their potential. But Shea's like, no, I'm going to be the best player in the NBA, in the entire NBA. Yeah. And he said that. He literally said that many times during the workouts. Like, he would go at NBA All-Stars during pickup games. And it's that belief that he had in himself.
Yeah, definitely. I think, one of the keys to greatness that I speak about at times is understanding and loving the process. And you probably have run across a lot of players that say they want to be this or that, but then their work ethic or the time they put into it doesn't match what they say. But it sounds like with Shea, it was like this kid loved the process and understood, like, I got to do this. I have to get better here. And you've seen the evolution of him in the NBA, where, like you said, he's one of the top 3 or 4 players in the NBA, up for MVP this year. He's got Oklahoma City in a place where they can, secure a top seed. Man, I think it's harder for us to find those guys that actually love the process. They just want the end result. But it's that journey and understanding I have to do this, which is what makes not only players great, but people great, much like yourself, as far as the things you've done to become a better speaker, motivator, and even author.
Well, thank you, man. But I think that is a secret sauce. Like, if you really thoroughly enjoy what you are doing without the benefit of the results or accolades, you're going to be successful. To what extent, I don't know, but you will be successful. And it's even like, man, like, I feel it in my life. Like, well, why aren't I having books being New York Times bestseller? Like, come on, it should happen already. Yeah. But when I come back to it, I absolutely love the process of writing. I love the process of seeing people unlock the gifts they have inside themselves. And it's, the same thing for Shay or your boys, how they train. They love the competition of continuing to improve day after day. But it sounds elementary, but most people don't love that.
Right.
Because if you don't feel the fruit of your labor that you put in, then you don't think that labor's working.
Yeah.
But you see it all the time. Hollywood's a great example of this too. And I see with my wife, of how much she's worked, or other people in her industry, just they work and they get nothing and nothing and nothing. They could give up. Right. They're not seeing the results, but the ones who stick with it, like, eventually something will break through. It's just most people aren't willing to go through the long years without seeing the results.
Yeah, it's the struggle of success. Like, if you want to be successful, you're gonna face some struggle at times. And it's the ones that can persevere that you typically see have the most success. And that being said, so you're NBA coach, shooting coach, you're working out these guys, you're rubbing shoulders with all these, high level agents. And then you decide, was it just, I'm going to be a public speaker now, or I'm going to be a keynote speaker? Like, what was that moment where you're like, okay, I'm going to pivot, which, is kind of fun, but I'm going to pivot and I'm going to go see what I can do in this arena. So what was it that made you shift?
Yeah, I remember the moment vividly, another snapshot moment like we're talking about. It was the summer of 2019, and I was on the court with a bunch of NBA players, multiple all-stars. We were doing workouts in the morning, pickup runs in the afternoon, workouts at night. It was like 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. And there was just a moment that, like, man, I passed out from exhaustion a couple times. And then it was crazy just being on court that long. And I would come to the gym just with this resentment of being there. Like, I don't want to be here. I don't, like, everything says I should love doing this. This is what I've been working for. I should love this. And I had such an internal battle of, I don't actually love being on the court for 12 hours. I really don't. But you know what I do love? I love when these players become inspired, encouraged, believe in themselves. Not just the, let's work on this step back jumper or this dribble move,
right?
But more the mental aspect and just believing their confidence in themselves. It's like, well, what can I do with this? I don't think I can withstand many more years of this.
Yeah.
I had a friend, I actually just met him a few months prior, John Gordon, who you know.
Yeah.
And he said, like, hey, well, why don't you use it to go speak? I speak to companies. I write books. Use these to go do that. It's a transferable skill. I was thinking, well, you know what? If I move on to something else, like, well, do I got to start over? What am I going to do? Like, well, the hardest thing was what will people think of me?
Right.
And from the outside, it's like, you work out with NBA players? No way. That's amazing. Dude, that's the life. I was like, yeah, I don't know.
Right.
So I was like, all right, I'm going in. And I had no idea, like, public speaking, what to do with that. I'd ask John questions like, oh, you just got to talk. You got to go talk. I'm like, okay, cool. But, like, how? Like, tell me how. So I made this speaking reel. My wife's acting coach, we rented out this little church stage and we brought in 3 friends and he videoed it. I brought in different outfits and I was giving these one-liners and it looked like I'm giving like 5 talks with people hands up in the air. I still have it. It's hilarious. So I just started, you know what? I sent it to people that I knew at companies, and one friend from Nestle, Australia, he's like, yeah, I'll introduce you to the people who do speaking for Nestle, and then they introduced me to someone else and someone else. And I was going on this email chain of like, I'm already this speaker when I've never spoke before. I end up getting on a call with the final guy, and he's like, all right, we'll do it. We like your reel. We'll do it. What's your fee? So I say this number that I think is really high. He's like, yeah, of course. Yeah, I should have said a higher number. But all that being said is I've got to go deliver this keynote talk to this massive company at their year kickoff. And I was, man, scared again. The same Aaron Gordon type thing. I felt unworthy. I'd never done it before. But I did prepare. And John told me, if you practice 2 or 3 times, you're going to get up there and you're going to flop.
Yeah.
So I did it. I tallied it. Every time I practiced it, I tallied it. I did it 162 times before I went on stage.
Wow.
And I can remember walking up there where they're like, keynote motivational speaker. I'm like looking around like, who are they talking about? Oh, no, that's me. And I get up there, and it's one of those moments where you know that God's with you, and he just takes over. Because I looked down at the time, and there was a minute and a half left, and I was just finishing up. I was like, I don't even know what I just said.
Yeah.
But got video, all that, sent it out and everything. Once again, you get the video of it, you get the proof of it. Now you convince yourself you can do it, and other people see it as well. So that's kind of where the transformation started. But man, to be honest, like I always battled it too of like, why not get back into NBA coaching? You spent your whole life pursuing this. You're getting opportunities from the Phoenix Suns, from the New York Knicks to go run their development. Do it. And it's really hard when you get good opportunities that aren't necessarily what you're called and made by God to do, to turn those down. And I honestly think that's one of the hardest decisions for people to do, to take good opportunities that are going to ultimately keep you away from great.
Yeah, no, that's exactly what I was thinking when you said that. Sometimes you have to turn down good to get to a great opportunity, like you said. But was there any of the fact that you had built this up and you wanted to be at this level, NBA coach, trainer, what have you, and then when you got there, was it one of those moments like, man, okay, what now? Or like you said, it's not all it's cracked up to be day in and day out. Was that something that you felt too? Just like, okay, like what's next?
Yes. Yeah, totally. I definitely felt that. And I felt that maybe it's not all it's cracked up to be too. Because I always do something where I look for whatever industry that I'm pursuing, who's the best? Who's the number one guy? Who's the person that is just at the top of the top? And the 2 people that were at the top they were beaten down. They were wearing knee braces on court. Like they were like falling apart. And I was like, wait a second, this is what I want to do. I don't know about that.
Right.
And it was one of those things of like, I don't know if it's fulfilling me enough. I don't know if, and John actually challenged me with this question when the Phoenix Suns offered me to run all the development. I could bring in all my optimization things, like all the stuff that I was nerding out about. They were going to give me full free reign. They were going to have the top pick. They ended up having, I think it was like number 5 pick where they got Mikal Bridges. But John said, hey, is this really what you're called to do? Do you really feel God is putting this on your heart to go be on the basketball court and just be in a basketball court again? Or is he telling you you're made for more, to impact more people than just basketball players? And that was the challenge that I needed. And I think like having those type of people in our lives, seeking out wise counsel, not counsel from anybody, but wise counsel that people will actually challenge you. They'll definitely support you and encourage you, but they'll also challenge you. I think that is one of the most underrated things that people, I mean, they overlook. We don't seek that out. We aren't willing to ask those tough questions when we need to.
Yeah, and I think there's probably a little bit of fear there too, right? Because you're having someone else is looking at you, and what they see a lot of times is different than what you see or what you feel about yourself. And so having people in your lives like that challenge every day is sometimes uncomfortable. And I'm a prime example of having to deal with that myself. We run from the uncomfort, but we need those people to challenge us, because a lot of times they see greatness in us when we don't see it in ourselves.
Yeah, you're totally right. I like how you said that. We run from the uncomfort. I think everything in life is on a scale. You know, any decision that you're making, it's on a scale. There is comfort versus success, your goals. Like extreme comfort's on one side, your goals that you want to hit are on the other side. you can't have extreme comfort and hit your goals.
Right.
It's somewhere you need to find that balance of it. So I think you're right. And it's easy to talk. There's a lot of things that are so easy to talk about too.
Yeah.
I always find it funny of like, so many people are, talking or going to seminars and they learn and they take all this information. It's a very rare few who put that into action, who take what they learn. I think there's the biggest disconnect is knowing and doing.
Right.
And I challenge anybody out there listening of what you know and what you feel on your heart that your intuition that you should do, go do it.
Yeah.
Be a little bit uncomfortable. Challenge yourself a little bit.
Yeah.
You won't regret doing that. You will regret not doing that.
Yeah. Speaking with another friend of ours, Thomas R. Williams, he said, one of the things he said early in his speaking career was, and I don't want to misquote him, but basically like the closer you get to your vision, your goal, or your dream, the harder it is. And that's one of those things like you think you're there and then there's just something that maybe just trips you up and you're like, okay, am I really supposed to do this? And it's those that say, okay, this is just a minor setback. I'm gonna keep pushing forward, or maybe changing or pivoting something that created that drop, whatever it is, and then keep moving forward. So it's one of those things like, especially young players that I'm coaching is there's like, oh, I'm doing all this coaching. I don't see any results. I go, but you're building a foundation for that. And I use Kris and Keegan a lot in talking about how they put in all this work, but they didn't reap the benefits that they thought. 5 years ago, they had one Division I offer, which was your alma mater, Western Illinois. And, but then they didn't let that deter them. Okay, we didn't get this offer, but we're going to go to prep school. Okay. And then everything kind of came from them. So I think human nature is once we maybe meet some resistance, we stop. And it's those that can push through it, like you, sleeping on people's couches, hearing no all the time. You said, forget that, I'm gonna keep pushing, and look at where you're at right now. So,
and that is so well said. And your boys are spitting images of exactly that too. Like even at Iowa, even when they got their offer. So a lot of times we'll think like, well, we got it. Because they were probably thinking, oh, Western Illinois is our only offer. Shout out to the Leathernecks, but glad they did not choose that. And then you think like, oh, I got the offer. It's going to be easier. I made it. And then they're not playing. Like we think we hit this moment and that it's going to be easy, but there's always another level. And that's you either take that as exciting and exhilarating journey and challenge, or you take that as overwhelming. Yeah. Because I'll think that too a lot of like, oh, I'm doing so great. I'm giving this talk. And then I look at somebody else on social media like, whoa, that's a sold out stadium. Yeah, they're way ahead of me. And I can look at that as that's overwhelming or that's a challenge. And I think it all comes back to, like you were saying at the start too, of if you enjoy the process, if you enjoy the journey, and you know that it is having an impact, leaving a legacy on other people, then it's going to be worth it. And it might not end up exactly like you painted it out to be. Yeah. But God has a way of making it work out better than you can actually imagine or scheme up in your head.
Well, I always quote this rapper, My Son, and he says, if you want to make God laugh, tell him your plans. Yes, it's good. Like that. So, basketball player, NBA trainer, now motivational speaker, but you are an accomplished author. When was that moment that you're like, and it might have been John too, because I've heard this a lot. I know John really encourages a lot of speakers, like, you got to go write a book. You got to go write a book. So when was it like, okay, I have to write a book, and then I have to write a second book, and I got to write a third book? Like, like when did you come to that point of putting pen to paper the first time?
So it was actually before I met John, I started writing Pivot and Go. And I honestly don't know why I started it, other than the fact of I had all these stories and I didn't want to lose these stories. So I started writing all these experiences and stories. And then while I was writing, so I went on the treadmill. Put my laptop on the treadmill, and I walked for an hour and wrote for an hour. That was my routine. That was my process. Whether I got 2 words or 2 pages, it didn't matter. I was going to commit to that process. So I just write all these stories. And then while I'm writing, I'm like, I actually think these are really good. I think this could be a book. Now, how do I go about getting a book?
Yeah.
And I sent it out all over the place. One publisher got back to me. I mean, there might have been more, but I jumped on the first deal that I got, and I was like, okay, this wasn't the best deal looking back on it, but I'm thankful that I did it and I learned through it. And I just really enjoyed it, to be honest with you, man. Like, and I enjoy it to this day. I'm always writing something or working on the next book, not because I feel like I have to put out another book or put out another. It's actually really, really difficult to put out a book because the promotion is all on you. And I feel like I'm always like, hey, I got a new book. When you buy the book? And it's like, oh man, not this again. I don't want to go down this valley again. Yeah. I want to be that author who writes a book and then it comes out like, oh, another bestseller. Yeah. He's living in the woods, not talking dogs.
Yeah.
But it's funny because after that first book, I was with John, and this is the power of relationships and also the power of letting the people in your life know what you're going for. Because you can have relationships and build great relationships, but if you don't let people know what you want or what you're trying to do,
right,
then they're not going to know. They can't read your mind. So I was with him after this first book, and it did okay. And I'm thinking like, well, I want to get a book deal because it was a one book deal. I want to get a book deal. I want to write more books. And I'm sitting with John. We went down to watch Miami Heat and our friend Eric Spoelstra. We're sitting there, and I was telling him this. He's like, well, have you talked to my publisher? Like, no, you haven't introduced me to them. Like, you never asked. I was like, good point. So like, we're gonna jump on a Zoom tomorrow. We get back to my place in Jacksonville, and we're gonna get you a 3-book deal.
Wow.
Like, really, a 3-book deal? So we get on the Zoom with them the next day. They're like, we'll give you a 3-book deal. Now, what are you writing? And the funny thing, I mean, that's just the power of John's relationship, but also having, his trust and asking what I wanted from that. Not getting to the point of where there's a fine line of that, of how many times you ask, what you ask for, what's the purpose of the ask. So there's a whole, there's a rhythm to that. But yeah, man. So then that's where we're at with 2 books down, 1 more in that deal that I'm working on right now. It's 365 days of confidence.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is too, like I love it because it's short little confidence boosts, and they're really fun to write. They're fun to research and put out there. But then it's almost a test to my own confidence of like, well, is anybody actually going to like this? Yeah. Will it just fall on deaf ears? Do people need this?
Yeah.
Old dance as an author, man. You got to love the process for sure.
Oh, love it. So writing, you really have to look inside yourself sometimes. Obviously, you're putting out personal stories and things like that. Was there something that you learned about yourself that maybe you wouldn't have if you hadn't written any of these books?
Yeah, I'm a terrible English speaker and writer. I write like I talk. That's the big thing. Luckily, my wife is phenomenal English, and she cleans this up. She'll go through and she's like, I mean, you can't have 7 negatives in the same sentence. That doesn't even make sense. No, I honestly think, man, the biggest thing that I learned from it is the patience of it.
Yeah.
The patience of, there are a lot of times when I sit down to write and I book out time that I'm going to write.
Yeah.
And man, one, like, I don't want to. I'm trying to think of different ways to not do it. And like when I'm writing, words won't come to me. And I can't think. It's just, it's a love-hate relationship at times. But the biggest thing is learning patience and learning that it takes a long time.
Well, I was going to say, one of the questions I was going to ask is like, what's the hardest part about writing a book? And I think you've answered that, is that even on those days that you don't want to write, like you have to write. But it's just one of those things. If you're going to commit to writing the book, then you have to commit to the process. And like you said, I think your wife definitely, with her background as a writer herself and an actress and going through all that, I think you probably had a pretty good person behind you to push, motivate, and just help you through this whole process, because she's doing it all the time, right?
All the time. Yeah. And she's the most creative person I've ever been around. Like, I can't take credit for much that I do. Most of the ideas come from her. And then I just go out there and talk about those ideas. But, yeah, man, it's a interesting process in it too. And it can be a defeating process, but I think it's just like anything too. Like, even if you love the process of it, that doesn't mean you're going to love it every single day.
Right.
It's building in these habits that you won't give up on it just because you don't love it. People often think like, well, you got to follow your passion. You're going to love your job every single day.
Yeah.
No, you're definitely not. There's still people that I'll see and I'll think that too. They're like multi-millionaires that are doing things and they're taking a red-eye flight. I'm like, what are you doing that for?
Yeah.
How to get to that meeting? Well, I mean, that's, like, there's always things you're not going to like in what you do.
Yeah.
But the overall net of it, you will.
Yeah. So we're gonna stay on your better half a little bit, because she is definitely like creating her own niche and carving out her own path. But with her schedule and your schedule, I know you guys do a great job of carving out time for each other. So, my question to you is, how do you stay balanced? How do you guys make it work when you're both traveling and both off doing your own thing? Because we know for actors and actresses, like, if they're going to shoot something, they could be on location for 3 or 4 months and doing those kind of things. Or you might have this swing out east where you're doing all these different events. How do you guys continue to stay connected and make time for each other? And what are some of your favorite things to do? I think I know some of the answers, but I want you to share it with our audience.
Go to Hawaii.
Yeah.
No, the rhythm of communications and building in the communication rhythm is so important. So from the macro, it is dialing in our communications of when we're going to talk to each other. So for example, like, she's going to Canada for an entire month. I'm going to speak and work with clients in different areas. So it's a very challenging time. So we look at the calendar ahead. We always plan ahead. Even the weeks, we look at the week ahead, what she has going, what I have going. We don't just like, hey, I got this coming up, I got to run to this. Like, we're always on the same page. We have a shared calendar, so I know everything she's doing. Yeah. She knows everything I'm doing. So even like for this month coming up, we look at, okay, well, when can I come up there and spend time with her? And this is taking away from, like, maybe there's an opportunity to go to an event or to connect with somebody or even a paid opportunity.
Right.
But that always comes first. So that's one of, overall, the macro. We also carve in once a quarter, we'll take a trip together. We'll go somewhere. And it can be a fun, cool place like Hawaii or Bora Bora. Those are usually the bigger ones. But then we'll make sure we do, like, a 3-day getaway, glamping in the Grand Canyon or something we're both looking forward to. And we always have that on the calendar ahead. Yeah. Like, we're going to go to Paris and south of France in the start of May. So that's the one we're looking forward to next. And then we always do the Bible recap together. So we've been going through the Bible in a year. It's a cool podcast app where it's going to, like, to break down the Bible. It's really short and easy to digest. So we do that together. And then we always pray together for 5 minutes before bed. We always pray together. That's one of the biggest keys to marriage is 5 minutes of prayer before bed.
Right.
Because one, you can't go to bed angry at somebody if you're praying with them. You can't.
That's good advice.
Get over whatever you're getting over. So that's been a non-negotiable. And whether we're with each other in person or away, we'll do it on the phone. Those are some of the things. Yeah,
no, I love it. But I do want you to go back. Okay, so I'm gonna go back to your buddy Rich, and he's the one that introduced you to. And I love the story because in that moment you probably didn't think that this beautiful woman is going to be my wife, or probably you're thinking, what's she going to want with me? But tell the story about how you guys were introduced and how you met, and I think it's a beautiful story.
So once again, Rich, my guardian angel, pushes me towards this. Now I'm going to have to throw a little shade on him too. Is like he said just one day, and I'd known him for about 6-7 years. Like, hey, you should meet my friend Taylor. Like, okay, well, show me a picture.
Yeah.
And then my jaw dropped. Like, well, why haven't you told me about your friend? You went to college. What are we doing here? So we schemed this plan, once again, faking it before I actually knew what I was doing. Schemed this plan that I wanted to get into acting. Like, I would ask her questions to pursue a career in acting. And she, out of the kindness of her heart, like, she took this random coffee meeting, and she only knew my first name. Now, I stalked her social media. I did all my research I could possibly do. And she just takes this meeting. Like, looking back at this, I would have never done that or ever advised her to do that for some random stranger.
Right.
But I remember the like another snapshot moment. I was sitting there. There's this older couple playing chess next to me at this coffee shop. I watch her walk across the street and I think, oh my gosh, game over. Like I can see it right now in my mind. In the first couple minutes when we met, I give her an awkward hug, of course. In the first couple minutes, she said something like, well, yeah, we had to do all these takes and different takes again and again on the same scene. And we did like one scene for the whole day, like a long time. Oh my gosh, there's no way I could do that. And she realized this has nothing to do with getting into acting. This is a setup date. But we didn't say anything about it for the next couple months. We didn't talk about it. And I just say that's the best acting job there is.
Oh gosh, that's so great, dude. I love that story. I love it. But no, it's you know, I have to tell you, you know, one thing that I have learned and I really appreciate with you is like you are genuine. You know, you kind of put everything out there, which is hard to do. And we've got this group of guys that we call our circle of trust. And I have to tell you, you, along with Jordan and Mark, have not only been incredible friends, but you guys are just incredible motivation for me. You know, there's so many things that you guys do. But once again, God has placed you in my life and put us together. And it's one of those things like we may not talk for a while, maybe not even text, but when we do, it's like there's been no time. And it's hard to find that with other men, honestly. And so I really appreciate the friendship that God has given me through the three of you guys. Hopefully you feel the same way, man.
Absolutely feel the same way. And then it's the same thing like we're in person.
Yeah.
Like we might not talk for a week, 2 weeks, but when we're in person, boom. It's like we never hadn't talked.
Yeah.
Even that felt when I met you. I think it was at the Bluebird or something in Iowa City. We had breakfast. I was like, okay, this guy's different. He loves Jesus. He loves hoops. He's an inspirational guy. Like you know what that is actually an interesting point is I think when you have 3 layers of deep with people, like you can connect a lot faster. When you have shared interests for a similar type of vision, you connect deeper. We had basketball. We had Jesus. We had development. Like we got along really, really fast and really quick. And I just see it too, man. Like Taylor and I don't have kids yet, but we watch how you raise your kids, not just the boys, but McKenna, and being grandparents now, and even the dogs. I love you out for the dogs. Like it's just it's a really infectious from a distance to watch that in your relationship, your guys' marriage. It's man. So I reciprocate that and know that I'm watching you as inspiration.
Well, I appreciate it. I don't know if I have a book named after my dog or vice versa like you do, but but I do.
Book came first. Dog came second. You were the marketing tool.
Gotcha. I love it. Well, I am in that mode right now. You know, obviously coaching girls basketball, that takes up a lot of time. But that's the next chapter that I'm flowing into is, you know, sitting down and really honing in on developing my craft as a speaker. And one of my goals this year is to start a book. So what would be, if you had 2 pieces of advice to give me as I look at, you know, putting pen to paper, what would those 2 things be?
Yeah, great question. I think the first one would be is, what do you want the overall message to be? If you're putting it in a book, what do you want people to walk away with feeling like this is the message? There can be a lot of sub messages in there, but what's the overall one? And then that also goes in correspondence with why people are going to go pick up the book. It sounds basic, but it's very difficult to nail this. And if you do, you hit a home run. It's like what to expect when expecting is a book. And everybody was like, my friend's having a baby, go get this book. Or anybody in a relationship, like, go get the 5 love languages. Go get like, what is your book, the void it is filling? You know what I mean? Like, I don't think I did it well with Breakthrough. I don't think that was the one. That was more of a, hey, here's what I speak on. Here's what I talk about. Here's what I've seen. I don't think it did a really good job of hitting no, I like the book. Yeah. But I don't think it hit that as well as it should have. So those are the title of the book. And what void is it filling? And then the overall, what do you want the reader to feel after they read that? Because there's a lot of books. Yeah. And there's a lot of books that aren't any good. And there's a lot of books that people just want to tell their own stories in. And I always tell people that, like, you can be a famous celebrity. Nobody cares about your stories. What is it going to do for the reader?
Right.
If you can tie that into it, then you're good.
Yeah. No, that's good. That's good. Yeah, that's been my biggest thing, is just trying to, because that's a process in itself, to take something from being this big and shrinking it down where it's more specific. So you'll probably get a few more calls and texts from me on that as we get down the road.
Anytime, man. I love helping people do that process, because it's new uncharted territory if you haven't done it.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things I love doing, right, is rapid fire questions. So I'm going to shoot these at you, have a little fun with them. So first one, in all your travels, and I know you just talked about traveling a lot with Taylor. So in all your travels, what's your favorite country to go to and why?
Oh, man, that is a really hard. It's like asking someone what their favorite movie is.
Right.
And then I hate when people are like, oh, I'm going to give you 3. I'll just give you 1. There's a lot of other ones. Israel is the best for multiple reasons. 1, you get to see where it all happened, where Jesus walked, where all of that was going down in the Bible. 2, there's so many different terrains. It's the size of New Jersey, but it has an amazing beach in Tel Aviv. Tel Aviv's like LA meets Sydney, Australia.
Okay.
It's got the old city of Jerusalem. It's got the Dead Sea. It's got mountainous regions. And the food is off the charts phenomenal. So if you could put those 3 things in one spot, I think that's the best.
Okay. Awesome. I love it. Favorite NBA arena?
Favorite NBA arena. I loved Brooklyn because I was there, but I'm just going to have to go with, it might be boring, but I love Staples Center, man.
Okay.
Yeah, over Madison Square Garden, too. I was in MSG, but I love Staples Center. I don't know if it's just because I've just been there so many times.
Yeah.
And I got to go on the Staples Center on Kobe's last season.
Yeah.
I got to go out there the night before to train some players when we were playing the Lakers. And Kobe came through. Now, he didn't come work out with me or anything like that, but it's like Lakers. I got the whole Staples Center to myself, and there's Kobe.
Yeah.
So that kind of a special place in my heart.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I'm going to say Golden 1 at this point in time, just because that's where Keegan's at.
Yeah. Good choice.
But then I had Alan Stein Jr. on, and his was OKC, and I haven't been to that one, but have you been there?
Good atmosphere.
Yeah.
Crazy atmosphere. They it's almost like a college feel. They pack it in, and they're rowdy and going. So I love for the ambiance.
Yeah.
The atmosphere type. That's a really good one.
Okay. Awesome. Third one, if you could compare yourself to any animal, which would it be and why?
Wow. So good. My puppy Pivot, because he's so lovable and cute. No. Man, that is a tough question. Let's say I'm gonna go with a dolphin.
Okay.
I'm gonna go with a dolphin. I think dolphins are very I think they're very like they're kind. They seem like kind. They seem more like they're gonna be supportive. You never hear like, oh, a dolphin attacked somebody and killed them. They're always backing up their friends. They're like, this dolphin protected this whale from the shark and it went at him.
Right.
And it's something majestic about them too, just when they jump through the water. It's just, I'll be a dolphin.
Okay.
And I hear they're smart too. They're supposed to be really smart. So I'll speak that into existence.
Okay. Sounds good. If you had a pet parrot, what would you teach it to say?
Honey, go get me something to eat. I'd have Taylor go run it. Usually she's got me on that. Like I committed to, I don't know why I did this, but I committed to one Christmas is part of her gifts. Like anytime you ask something of me, I'll go do it. I didn't know it was going to be like, even when I'm dead aslead in the middle of the night and she's hungry, she wakes me up and I go get her a yogurt. So I would tell that parrot to, or you get that yogurt.
I got you. I love it. But I'm going to add this one on too, because not a lot of people know this. And obviously your intro touched on it a little bit, but I want to ask you, what is the next Guinness World Record you're aiming for?
Oh, man. Wow. I haven't even given thought to that. But you know what? I think so the Guinness World Records that, now I'm going to put air quotes, Guinness World Records, they're not official Guinness World Records, because I was trying to promote this basketball shooting camps and I looked at the YouTube World Record and I beat that in 1 minute, 3-point shooting, 1 minute, 1 basketball only. Now there's this guy did some like two balls with a weird shot. He's been on like Tonight Show and Jimmy Kimmel. Like, what are we doing here? Like, where did mine go? But there's also the 5 minute with 1 basketball. So I'm planning on, and you might have to hold me to this because I could back out of this because I'm a little bit nervous that I might not be able to do it.
Right.
I'm going to get a bunch of people around, bring in Guinness for the next book launch, and officially get the Guinness World Record for 1 minute, 1 basketball, 3-point shooting. Funny thing is, a couple of years ago, Kenyon, I got an email from Guinness, official Guinness, and they're like, your record is not official. I was like, that's all I needed, validation.
Yeah, right.
Searching out my record, you know?
Yeah. That's awesome, man. No, man, I appreciate you so much. I mean, not only your friendship, I appreciate you for your support, your mentorship, not only for me, but for my boys too. You know, the one thing that people don't realize is that part of who they are and the players they become has been because of the work you did with them, not only at the University of Iowa, but also as they moved into the professional arena. So I just want to say thank you, brother. Hope I get to see you soon. But once again, thanks for coming on the show today. This podcast is sponsored by Storyline Multimedia. Storyline is an Iowa City-based media company that specializes in creating high-quality video, photo, and audio production for local businesses. They also work with college athletes and connect local business with NIL opportunities. They also produce a number of hit podcasts, including this one. So if you're interested in sharing the story of your business with the world, contact them today by visiting StorylineMultimedia.com. And remember, your story matters.